Hey, what's going on guys? Arekkz here, and welcome to one of the first looks at Outriders. This is of course the brand new game from the guys over at People Can Fly and Square Enix, and up until this point, not a lot has been known about this game. It was of course teased initially with the very first announcement trailer, and that didn't really give us a great deal to go on. But thanks to the awesome guys over at Square Enix for very kindly sponsoring this, and the other week they flew us over to Poland to give us a chance to go hands-on with the game. I played it for about 4 or 5 hours, I'd say, so only kind of a small snippet of the game, but during that time I got to find out what the game was. I got to experience some of the different gameplay elements, and today I want to try and sort of break down exactly what Outriders is and share a few initial impressions. There's only so much I can show today, but there will be some more video content dropping tomorrow, so if you want to find out more about this game, then be sure to keep it locked. Additionally, if you want to see just gameplay, then later on today I'll also be uploading just an extended chunk of gameplay that you guys can watch without me talking over the top, but the purpose of this video is to talk about the game. So let's start at the top. What exactly is Outriders? Well, first things first, it is a co-op loot-based RPG. Now it's important to note that while this, obviously if you look at it kind of top level, it is kind of like a looter shooter, falls within that space, that sort of emerging genre that we're seeing quite a lot of these days. But it's important to note the difference with this is that this is not a game as a service. This is not a Destiny or a Division or an Anthem. It's not a game where you will be playing week in, week out around like a weekly reset. It is a game that has a finite endpoint. In fact, they actually said during the Q&A, campaign-wise, you're probably looking at around 40 hours. They did, however, say there will be some endgame content. They haven't spoken about that yet, as is often the way. They tend to keep endgame content pretty kind of close to their chest initially, but they did say there will be some stuff for us to do endgame if, continual progression is your thing. But the idea is, this gives you that sort of looter-shooter experience in a condensed package that can be, quote-unquote, completed. They refer to this as having deep RPG mechanics. It's a RPG first with a shooter second, and it's coming to PS5, Xbox Series X, PC, PS4, and Xbox One. We of course played on PC at the event, but this is going to be a next-gen title and it's slated for holiday 2020. So there's still a fair amount of time to go. There's still of course a fair amount of time for them to work on the game. From what I played initially, I definitely had a lot of fun with what I played. Do keep in mind, anytime you go to these events, you are playing in a condensed window. You're only playing for a small amount of time, so I don't know what the entire game is going to be like. I don't know what the expanded narrative is going to be like. I don't know what it's going to feel like to play this for 40, 60, maybe even 100 hours if you want to continue playing it. But what I can comment on is my time in that small condensed 5-hour window. And honestly, it feels fun to play. It's kind of like a combination. Obviously, if you follow People Can Fly, then you got to think, they've worked on like Gears of War Judgment, they worked on Bulletstorm. So you kind of got that Gears feel in that it's like a, third person, over the shoulder, cover-based shooter to an extent. Of course, when your abilities come out, you're definitely not going to be behind cover, but there is cover-to-cover movement, that kind of thing, but it's not got the same sort of weighty feel of Gears, the kind of clunkier feeling. It's definitely a lot more fast-paced, which of course goes hand-in-hand with your abilities. So I guess you could kind of sort of think like Gears meets Mass Effect meets Destiny, kind of throw that all into a pot, mix it together, and that's kind of what you're getting to a degree. In the game itself, there are going to be 4 classes. Now, at the event, we were only able to play as 3 of those. The Devastator, which is kind of like your brute force, shatter, earth-focused character that is to kind of like your tank, get up in people's faces, punch them in the face, that kind of thing. There's the Trickster, which is a class that can kind of manipulate time and space. They're sort of like your stealthy class, and you then have the Pyromancer, who can manage flames, so sort of like your mage character. There will, of course, be that 4th class, but they haven't said what that is just yet. And you create your character, you create your class, and then as you progress through, you unlock new abilities, but there's also an additional skill tree so that you can then go down and fine-tune those. So you kind of unlock your top level abilities that will ultimately influence how you play, and then as you spec down like the talent tree, that will further fine-tune your personal playstyle. The game has character creation. Largely speaking, it's just face character creation, but there's still some pretty cool things in terms of, complexity. You tend to pick faces, pick hairstyles, pick beards, so you're not going to be having one of those kind of crazy face sliders to make your nose massive or your forehead tiny. You're going to be just kind of picking between, presets, but there's beards. Let me put it this way. There's the ability to basically create myself in game. There's a bald option. There's a mighty beard. I'm definitely happy when it comes to character creation. Now on top of that, in a game like this, it is of course all about the loot. There are guns, there's armor, there's loads of kind of cool stuff to go after, and honestly, some of the items we saw initially did actually look quite cool. Admittedly, again, in the scope of things, we didn't necessarily get a chance to experience quite how much they'll impact the game as you expand, but in a kind of gear progression system, you have different loot rarities, you have items like helmets and chest pieces and gauntlets and things like that. There are exotic weapons or legendary weapons, they come in the, different rarity colors, and we did get a couple of those to drop during our playtime, and they look really cool. Description-wise, they're awesome. Some of them were, unfortunately, a little bit bugged in the build that we played, so we didn't necessarily get to see them to their fullest extent, but principally there will be things to chase. Now, what I will say is, from my time playing, I honestly really enjoyed the moment-to-moment gameplay. I honestly really enjoyed the flow, the kind of movement of the characters. I will say my one gripe at this point, the thing that I really hope they do improve from now until launch, is just the general feedback of the weapons and the abilities. Because there's some things like, for example, I played as the Devastator. I wanted to be the tanky guy. He's got earth-shattering abilities. He actually has an ability called Earthquake, where you basically rupture the ground, which sounds really cool, but when you actually play as that, or when you kind of, pull that off in-game, the feedback for it isn't quite in line with, say, the move itself. Like, if I want to pull off an Earthquake, I want to feel like I'm rupturing the ground. If I want to go and punch an enemy in the face with, like, a rock-imbued fist, I want to feel that. And in the current instance of the game, there's sort of some stuff they still need to work on. Obviously, it is an earlier build. They are still working on this. This doesn't launch until later on this year, so I imagine that is stuff they'll work to improve, but that is definitely one of the things that I wanted them to, fine-tune. Additionally, when it comes to guns, in this build, it was more tuned towards the abilities, so the guns felt kind of secondary to the abilities, but they did say they want to make sure that they are, they kind of go hand in hand, so it's not like, only abilities and your guns feel weak. They want both of them to kind of be able to shine in the spotlight. So that is something they will be working on as well. But when it comes to abilities, it is kind of like Anthem in that respect, not to kind of, compare it to that, because I know Anthem is not exactly everyone's favorite topic, but what I mean by that is that it's all about quick recharge. When you played Anthem, you'll know that your abilities were, never on cooldown for very long, because the idea is that you're supposed to use your abilities quite frequently alongside your weapons, and that is exactly what they're trying to do in Outriders. They want it to be a thing where you can run into battle, you can use an ability, you shoot your weapon, and then very quickly after you've got your ability ready to go again. So it is heavily ability and weapon driven. So that is actually quite fun. A couple of things worth noting as well, things that are obviously always important questions that people could tend to bring up. They did say there will be no loot boxes in this game. There will be no pay-to-win shortcuts, because obviously, given the kind of finite nature of the campaign, it is a game that you will just have as a complete product. You buy it off the shelf, you buy it digitally, you play it, you complete it, the game is done. So there will be no loot boxes, there'll be no microtransactions. That is how they are structuring the experience. So overall, from my time playing it, honestly, I had a lot of fun with what I got to play. Things that I do really want to see, further forward, or moving further forward, is how the game will expand and how some of the boss battles will evolve, because early on we fought bosses that are much less of a threat in terms of, they were like humanoid bosses, right? So in a similar way to the Division, you tend to, pile bullets into them. They have a few different phases where, you need to kind of interrupt them to stop them casting like big powerful moves, but largely speaking, we were fighting humanoids. But they did say that later in the game there will be much bigger, like huge monster-like enemies or like robot-like enemies, so some of those will obviously have different mechanics, and that's something we didn't personally get to experience. So there are obviously still lots of questions as to, how that evolves, but I will say from my initial impressions, I enjoyed what I got to play. So, for the time being, that is a quick rundown on what Outriders is. Of course, if you guys have any questions, by all means let me know in the comments down below, and be sure to keep it locked, because if you want to see some extended gameplay without me talking over the top, that will be coming on the channel later on today. And then starting from tomorrow, we'll of course be taking a look at some more individual aspects of the game. I'll take a deeper look at the classes, we'll be taking a deeper look at the loot, character customization, loads of different things like that. So keep it locked if you want to find out more. really hope you guys enjoyed that video. Remember to hit that subscribe button and also click on the little bell icon to turn on notifications so you don't miss my next upload. Also, don't forget you can check out 269 and Paradise Central streaming over on Twitch 6 days a week. You can find a link to the multi-stream in the description box down below. Be sure to drop by and get involved. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.